Hi everyone, this is Cooking with Kurt. Today my husband Donald and I are going to show you how to make Sylvanas. These are cashew meringue cookie sandwiches filled with French buttercream and covered with sweetened cashew crumbs. They're essentially a smaller cookie version of the Sans Rival cake.
Ooh, Sylvanas was requested by a lot of you and we hope you like this video. Now this recipe makes 12 Sylvanas cookie sandwiches that can be halved or double as needed. To start, we're going to make the cashew-meringue wafers. Take 6 eggs and separate them into egg whites and egg yolks. Let these 6 egg whites and 6 egg yolks come to room temperature. Place 2 oven wraps on the lower and upper third position in your oven. Then preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, taking a sheet pan, we're using a 13 by 18 inch sheet pan. Add in 3 cups of unsalted cashews and spread the cashews so they cook evenly. We're going to toast these cashews in the upper third position of the oven for 10 to 15 minutes until they are golden brown. With the cashews still spread out on the sheet pan, let them cool completely to room temperature. Piling the cashews on top of each other, like in a bowl for example, while they're still hot will make them soggy as they cool, which will affect the texture of the cashew powder later.
Now, turn down the oven temperature to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Then take 2 large sheet pans, again these are 13 by 18 inches, and fit both sheet pans with parchment paper. Take those 2 sheets of parchment paper. I'm using a glass and a Sharpie pen to make 3-inch diameter circles on the parchment paper so that there are 12 circles per sheet, about ½ inch apart. On each sheet, I'm making 3 rows of circles with 4 circles in each row. You should end up with a total of 24 circles. Flip the parchment paper sheets over onto the pans so the sides with the Sharpie marks face down and away from the cookies. Set these aside. Once the cashews have cooled completely, take a food processor, add in 1 cup of toasted cashews, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Pulse this till they are mixed and the cashews are very fine. It should look like a powder. Set this aside. Take the mixing bowl of your stand mixer, add in the 6 room temperature egg whites and ½ teaspoon of cream of tartar. With the whisk attachment, beat them on medium-high speed till the egg whites become frothy. Then very slowly add in 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. Adding the sugar in slowly prevents the egg whites from getting deflated. When all the sugar has been added, increase the speed to high and continue beating till you see very stiff peaks, like this. Then 1/3 at a time, carefully fold in the cashew powder mixture into the meringue mixture, as well as ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract. Doing your best not to deflate the meringue, gently fold these in just until they are evenly combined and the mixture looks uniform. Transfer this mixture into a pastry bag fitted with no metal tip. At a 90-degree angle, use the prepared circles on the parchment paper as a guide to pipe the batter into circular wafers that are about 3 inches in diameter, ½ inch high, with about ½ inch between each wafer. I'm piping an outline of the circle first, then piping a dab in the middle so I can spread the mixture into a thin layer later on. Pipe 4 cookies per row in the 3 rows so that you have 12 wafers per baking sheet for a total of 24 wafers. If there's leftover meringue batter after making 24 circles with a dab in the middle, distribute the leftover batter equally into the circles that have slightly less batter in them by adding to the dab of meringue in the middle. Once all the batter has been piped, I'm using the back of a small spoon to spread the meringue from the sides and the middle to fill the circle, and smoothen and flatten the tops of the wafers as much as possible. Do this with all 24 circles. We're going to bake these meringue wafers in our preheated oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. Then turn off the oven heat, but do not open the oven door. Let the meringue wafers rest in the oven with the door closed for a minimum of 3 hours to overnight for the meringue wafers to continue drying out in the residual heat.
The low temperature and long baking time are needed to remove the moisture from the egg whites and create a hollow and dry wafer without burning the outer layer of the meringue wafer. When the wafers are completely dry, they should come off the parchment paper quite easily.
You can leave them out at room temperature uncovered if you're not assembling the Sylvanas cookie sandwiches immediately. This will allow them to dry out more, which is preferred.
While the cashew meringue wafers are baking and cooling, you can work on the French buttercream filling and frosting. Take 1.5 cups, which is 3 sticks of unsalted butter, and slice them into 1-inch cubes. Let these come to room temperature. Take the clean bowl of your stand mixer and add in the 6 room temperature egg yolks. Using the whisk attachment, whip the yolks on medium-high speed for about 8 minutes until they are pale lemon yellow in color. Set this aside for now. Then take a small heavy bottom saucepan, add in 2/3 cup of granulated sugar and 6 tablespoons of water and turn onto medium heat. When the sugar has dissolved, clip a candy thermometer onto the side of the saucepan. Turn the heat up to the highest possible level and do not stir. Heat the mixture to the softball stage, which is when the thermometer reads 235 degrees Fahrenheit. This step is crucial as failing to reach the right temperature will affect the consistency of the French buttercream frosting. As soon as the sugar reaches 235 Fahrenheit, immediately remove it from the heat. With the stand mixer running on medium speed, carefully drizzle the hot sugar syrup into the egg yolk mixture in a slow, steady stream. This syrup needs to be hot enough so it's at the softball stage to create the right texture and to also cook and pasteurize the egg yolks to make them safe to eat. Once all the sugar syrup has been added, stop the mixer to scrape down the sides of the bowl for any unmixed sugar droplets that may have splattered to the side or settled at the bottom. Then turn the mixer back on to medium-high speed and continue whipping until the mixture has cooled down completely to room temperature, which may take about 15 to 20 minutes. When the yolk sugar mixture has cooled down to room temperature, with the mixer running on medium speed, add the 1.5 cups of softened room temperature butter, 1 cube at a time, allowing each piece of butter to be incorporated before adding the next.
The butter will melt if the egg sugar mixture is too hot. If you do notice that the butter is separating, you can cool down the sides of the mixing bowl by putting it in an ice bath.
Alternatively, you can add the bowl into the fridge for a few minutes to cool down the contents before adding in more butter. Eventually, the buttercream should come together. Once all the butter has been added and the mixture looks smooth, add in 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and an optional 2 tablespoons of dark rum. Continue to beat until the buttercream is silky and smooth, another 2 to 5 minutes. Note that the dark rum is an optional flavor. If it's unavailable to you, or if you prefer not to add alcohol into your buttercream, just leave out the dark rum flavor. There's no need to substitute with anything.
When your French buttercream is ready and your cashew meringue wafers have cooled completely, we're ready to assemble the Sylvanas cookie sandwiches. So take your food processor again, add in the remaining 2 cups of toasted cashews and 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. Pulse this till they are very fine crumbs, similar to the cashew powder we made in the beginning for the meringue. Transfer this cashew powder onto a shallow tray and spread them out. Then line a sheet pan. I'm using a 10.5 by 15.5 jelly roll pan with parchment paper for placing the finished Sylvanas sandwiches. You can also use graham crackers for the outer crumb coating, but using cashew crumbs like we're doing here stays closer to the original Sanserval flavor and also keeps this version of Sylvanas gluten-free. Take one of the cashew wafers, spread buttercream onto the uneven side, the side that was facing up during baking, so that it forms about a 1/4 inch layer of buttercream. Take another cashew wafer to sandwich the buttercream, pressing the uneven side against the buttercream. This way the flatter sides of both cookies are facing outward. Spread more buttercream on the rim of the sandwich so the rims are even and flush with the wafers, and spread a very thin layer of buttercream on the flat faces of the sandwich. I'm putting just enough buttercream on the flat surfaces so that the cashew powder can stick to it. Don't worry about your fingers pressing into the buttercream, as any finger marks will be covered by cashew crumbs eventually. Place the buttercream covered sandwiches in the cashew crumbs and cover all sides with the cashew crumbs. I start with covering the two flat sides with cashew powder, then rolling the edge of the wheel in the cashew powder to cover as much as possible, then doing the two flat sides again to cover up any finger marks. Then carefully place the finished Sylvanas cookie sandwich on the prepared parchment paper lined sheet pan. Wipe your fingers clean and repeat these steps with the remaining meringue wafers. I find it helpful to have a cloth nearby and wiping off any excess buttercream or cashew crumbs before starting each cookie. Otherwise, your fingers will get messier and messier with each cookie and you'll find it more difficult to assemble the pieces. Again, the steps are sandwiching buttercream on the uneven sides of two cookies, with the flatter sides facing out. Adding buttercream so the edges are flush. Spreading a thin layer on the flat sides. Then covering all surfaces with a cashew crumb powder and placing them on the parchment paper lined sheet pan. This should make a total of 12 Sylvanas cookie sandwiches.
Let the cookies rest in the fridge for a minimum of 3 hours to set, or in the freezer for a minimum of 1 hour if you're in a rush. Once these cookies have set, you can eat them immediately or store them in an airtight container.
In the freezer, they'll keep for up to 1 month, and in the fridge, they'll keep for up to 1 week. You can eat them straight out of the fridge or freezer, depending on your preferred texture. And there it is. Sylvanas Cashew-Meringue cookie sandwiches filled with French buttercream and covered with cashew crumbs. Ang sarap!
Ang sarap! Yum!
So good. That crunchy cashew-meringue wafer is delicious.
Seriously, one of my favorites. This bite-sized version of the Sanserval just hits different.
Thank you all so much for watching. Please let us know in the comment section below if you're planning to make these Sylvanas cookie sandwiches. Send us pictures of your creations on Facebook and Instagram. The links are below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Cooking with Kurt.
And don't forget to click on the bell so you get notified when we post new cooking videos. Maraming salamat!